Hey, it's Ian Spanier, Los Angeles-based portrait photographer. Today I'm going to share with you one of my favorite go-to lighting setups for beautiful portraits. If you look through my portfolio or my website, you're going to see a lot of images that look like they are created in studio, but in fact, most of the work that I do is actually creating a studio on location. Quite often we're in small spaces, which is not very conducive to a lot of lights and a lot of light stands. So I wanted to create a solution for that that is a very small footprint. And that's how I came up with what my friend affectionately calls the Spanier stack. Part of this lighting setup is actually putting two lights on one stand for the very small footprint that I'm talking about. In order to accomplish that, one light is going to go right on top of the stand on a boom, and the second light is actually going to be attached to the same stand with what's known as a super clamp or a maffer clamp with a 3-inch pin. I'll intentionally place that on the stand in a spot where when I move the stand up or down, the top light and the bottom light move together in conjunction with each other in order to work together, which is the whole point of having this stack, to create one big light. Some of the other equipment that we're going to be using today is the Canon R5 Mark II, the Canon 24 to 105 millimeter lens 2.8, Hoodman memory cards, Westcott's FJ X3M light trigger, CamRanger 2, which allows me to wirelessly send a JPEG to a tablet or computer, a no brand dual hot shoe, which allows me to mount the CamRanger 2 along with the trigger on top of my camera, spider holster accessories, Sekonics L858D-U light meter, a Manfrotto super clamp, also known as a maffer clamp with a 3-inch pin, and I will be using the reflectors on the strobes inside the umbrellas today. As you watch the time lapse of me putting the set together, you can see I'm using the Westcott X-Drop Pro, one of my favorite go-to items for shooting on location, creating a studio. You can also see how small of a footprint this one light stand will take once all the lights are there. Finally, you'll see me using a light meter to set the exact ratio of the strobes. This is something I'm going to go into great detail later this video. I'm big on interacting with my subjects prior to the photo shoot really getting going. I use this time to really try to get a sense of their natural expressions so that when I'm behind camera, I do my best job of capturing their real essence. I'll also discuss with them a little bit about the lighting and how the shoot will go, just so they have an understanding of the day's plan. Thanks to the CamRanger 2, I'm able to share images to my iPad in almost real time. Typically, I'll be handing the iPad to my client so that they can see what I'm capturing in almost real time. When it's just me and one subject on set, I'll have to make a quick assessment whether I think they'll benefit or not from being able to see the images as we go. I often explain that most of my knowledge about lighting comes from the natural world. Once I got my hands on some equipment, it was really just a matter of trying to recreate the things that I was responding to that I was seeing out in the natural world. In this case, my 7-foot umbrella is coming at a steep top-down angle intentionally, and with the ratio of 2 stops less or 3 stops less on the second umbrella, I'm really just pushing some light forward. As a result, I get this gradation of light where I have beautiful light hitting my subject's face, and then it's dropping off, but still the shadows are filled in from the light that's underneath. It's all with intent and all with the means of trying to create something that's similar to what I would have maybe seen through a window reflected off the sky. So not direct sunlight, but something maybe a little bit more of a bounced light. One of the other questions I always get is whether or not I'm directing my subjects on every single photo shoot. And the reality is that there's a little bit of a judgment call that has to be made based on who your subject is. That said, I am really taking the role of the director of the photo shoot, being the photographer. I set up the lights, I compose the image, I decide when to push the button. So ultimately, what it comes down to for me is getting the job done. What do I need to do in order to accomplish the best job today? One of the key elements to this lighting setup is a ratio between the top light and the bottom light, so that even though it feels like one big light, there's a lot of control going on, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. What modification you do to those two individual lights is really up to you. I've tried several different versions of this setup, and I'm always exploring different ways to modify the light in order to satisfy the story that I'm trying to tell that day. In this case, I'm going to be using two Westcott FJ400 strobes. The key light will have a 7-foot silver umbrella with diffusion, and the second light will be a 43-inch deep silver umbrella, also with diffusion. This is something that always comes down to the kind of light that you're trying to create and the quality of light that you're trying to utilize. Now I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a moment and let you know that the key to doing this setup or any other really comes down to the use of a light meter. I can't stress enough how important it is to really understand light, and in order to understand light, using a light meter just bridges that little gap of the guesswork that you don't want to have in your photography. Many photographers starting out seem to neglect the importance of using a light meter, but it couldn't be more simple. I'm going to show you how. So what the light meter will do is essentially take your shutter speed and your ISO combination, and then take a reading of whatever your light source is, be it natural light, an LED, or a continuous light, or a strobe light, and output for you information that equates to the f-stop that you're going to set your camera to. So of course we're working in manual mode here, which we all should learn to do anyway. All light meters are essentially the same. First, you set your metering mode. In this case, I'll be using an LED light, so I'm going to be using an ambient light metering. For strobe, obviously I would be using strobe metering. I have my shutter speed set to 1/20th of a second. My goal is f8. So I can either move the light closer or turn the power up, depending on the situation, but in order to get to f8, I'm going to need more light. As I make the move and take another meter reading, I can see that I get a result of 5.69. So from here, if I move the light even closer, then I will get a higher f-stop result. f8.07 is great. This allows me to lower my ISO down and shoot at that desired lower ISO at f8. Now the reason that this is so important is the more that our brains understand what the output of light looks like and what it equates to, especially when you get that feedback from the light meter, then you start to think in those f-stops. And when you think in those f-stops, you make your decisions faster when you're making a portrait or taking a picture of something that you want to say looks a certain way, certain depth of field, certain feel to that image, all can come through that understanding of what f8 looks like, what f11 looks like, what f22 looks like. So for our setup today, my goal is that my key light is f8 and my fill light is 2 stops below that, so f4. So I'm going to take my light meter and set the ISO to the same that my camera is set to, as well as the shutter speed that my camera is set to. Then, thanks to Westcott's FJ-X3M trigger, I'm able to trigger my lights without standing next to them. I'll extend my light meter to where my subject will be placed and take a reading of the strobe's power when I fire the strobe from the trigger. Once I have my key light set to f8, I will actually put it to sleep, turn the fill light on, and then take a reading from the fill light, with my goal being f4. With both strobes firing, I actually get a meter reading of f8.02, which is a little bit higher than I want. So I'm going to turn both of the strobes down, probably 2/10, 2 clicks down on both of the strobes, so that that ratio of f8 to f4 is still intact, because that's the key to this setup, that there's a 2-stop difference between the top and the bottom light. In other cases, I'll make that a 3-stop difference. It all depends what I'm going for that day. Now, as technical as I am, and as much as I love the numbers, I will always throw those numbers out slightly if something feels better a different way. Maybe my subject has darker skin, so the power of my strobes, even if read correctly, still need to go up a little bit higher so I get a better exposure that feels better. And same thing on the other side. If I have a very light-skinned subject, perhaps f8 is actually a little bit too hot on my subject or too much light on my subject. So I'll turn the power down a little bit and make that adjustment. Again, the more that you do this with a light meter, you're going to understand what those little changes will make and only make those exposures better for you in the long run. Now, I promise you this part. When you use a light meter, your first frame out of camera is always closer to the end goal. So if you have clients on set and they're going to see the images coming from your camera as you make your light test, when you nail that first frame, it's only that much more impressive to your clients. So my favorite technique for putting diffusion on an umbrella easily, rather than having to get it onto the stand and put the diffusion all the way around it and wrap it around, which is fine, but this is a little bit quicker. My hand is through the hole in the diffusion, and I'm going to grab the shaft of the umbrella and then place the diffusion over the edges of the umbrella. Then as I shake the umbrella, I'm making sure that the diffusion sort of stays in place over each of the edges while I'm still holding on to the shaft before fully opening the umbrella. Quite often on set, what I'll do at the very beginning of a shoot is sort of get a rhythm going for the day by having my subject go through the motions of what they would do as we're shooting. Now, with digital today and the giant capacity of the memory cards, nothing is really wasted, unlike when we used to shoot film. So, in essence, it's sort of like the stretching before exercise, where I'm able to get my subject sort of moving and getting used to everything I'm doing, and at the same time getting my brain to really start working towards what the end goal will be, which is ultimately to capture the best images possible of my subject. So sometimes I'll do this with maybe my least favorite outfit, or just to see what my subject is doing with their body and how they move and little mannerisms that are natural and mannerisms that don't feel natural. And it's a great way to get a photo shoot started. Once a rhythm is sort of established, you just never know. There might be some images that come out of it that are successful and lead to some great shots for the day. Light, for me, is the true path to being a good storyteller. The more that you understand how to manipulate, shape, and use light to help tell the story of the day, the better you will become at consistently telling stories with your images. Taking inspiration from the natural world has always been my best instructor as to how light can be used to create beautiful images time and time again. Always remember the gear is the vehicle to help get you there. When it becomes second nature, then you've truly unlocked the path to consistent, successful photo shoots.